Hey guys, I'm sorry if I'm a little tired here. I've been up, since this morning, and I wanted to relax earlier, but just didn't do that. And just taking the opportunity that I have right now because my mom is at my sister's, the same sister I work with, not in the same department, but basically the same job with right now. And I wanted to come on here and talk about something that got me thinking a little bit. You know, it seems that, and I think I've talked about this before, but it seems that even though I can understand the reasoning why they would, allow their schools to, participate in these games, with the off chance that once in a while, you could see an upset, like the FBS team that takes the FCS team or the new FBS team or the smaller conference, mid-conference team too lightly. There's always an off chance, we've seen it before, that we could see an upset. And it's happened. I mean, before Appalachian State became an FBS school, when they were an FCS school, they beat Michigan at the Big House. Everybody remembers that. But since then, and even around that time as well, majority of majority of the time, we have seen a lot of these schools, come in and basically get a shellacking, like, unlike anything we've seen before sometimes. Now, true, some of these FCS schools and, some of the mid to small FBS conference schools try to, put up a decent fight. They try to put up a decent fight. And sometimes the game is a lot closer than you can imagine. It's a lot closer than, you thought it would be. And you know, sometimes that's a good look for for the FCS school, the small to mid major conference FBS school, because it helps them not only get noticed but helps the NCAA consider a move up in stature. Like if it's an FCS school, maybe they should try the shot at being FBS. If it's a small to mid-major conference FBS school, maybe upgrade them to a bigger conference to get more exposure. So there's always benefits. There's always benefits when you think about it. But after this past weekend, it still raises the question. You know, why would any of these schools, FCS or small to mid-major FBS schools, why would they allow themselves to be basically shellacked in the manner that they end up being? This past week we had not one, not two, but three, if not more, matchups to where these FCS, if not smaller schools, mid-major schools, got the heck beat out of them. I mean, Oklahoma took on Arkansas State, and I think Arkansas State's an FBS school as a Sun Belt. And what did Oklahoma do? They shut them out 73 to nothing. Then you look at Ole Miss against Mercy, or no Mercy, but Mercer, Ole Miss against Mercer, and they beat them 73-7. But the one people talk about the most is the shellacking Oregon gave Portland State after Portland State, just for a brief period, kind of made it competitive, around the, later stages of the first quarter into the second quarter. But then Oregon State just took off after that, and that was it. No looking back, and the final score was 81-7. You know, and the thing that people talk about, when it comes to that, is not only the absurdity of that score, but the fact that the Puddles mascot for Oregon, their duck, the Donald Duck lost cousin, if you will, basically did about, what was it, 546, 564 push-ups, for all, throughout that entire game. I mean, even the person in that mascot costume, and they have footage of this, raised his hands up when they scored the last point, which was 81. When they scored that last touchdown, which was 80, and then you had the field goal to make it 81. And the person in the mascot costume threw up their hand like, "Good God, again, oh God." I mean, whoever the guy or girl was in that costume, give him credit. Give him credit for having to endure that, because it's one thing, if they have a close game with, let's say, or Oregon State or Cal or a Stanford, and they only have to do like maybe 21 push-ups at most or 28 at most, but not to the extent that they just did. And that's the one thing that's very noteworthy out of this, the fact that the person in that mascot costume probably had to be iced down, because it was just great. It was just embarrassing, you know, it was just embarrassing what Oregon did to Portland State. And of course, like I said, there are other games that were out there where we saw shellackings happen, but not as bad as these. I mean, UNLV beat Bryant University, but it wasn't that bad, you know. So again, you ask yourself, why do these FCS and FBS and smaller and mid to smaller FBS schools, why do they put themselves through this? Why do they allow themselves to be destroyed? And again, I get it's for the money. It helps the programming. And that once in a while you could get an upset or a very competitive game. But still, it's like, why? Why would you do this? I mean, Clemson lost big time to Duke, right? Clemson is taking on an FCS school this Saturday at home, Charleston Southern. I think that's who it is. And I can only imagine Charleston Southern, and their reaction at seeing Clemson lose and realize, oh, great, we got to go into what's known as Death Valley and probably get destroyed. It's you can only imagine the reaction, like, okay, think of the positive. It's for the money. It's to help our program and everything. But you can only imagine the thoughts of, we could try to keep it competitive, but who are we kidding? We'll probably get destroyed. We'll probably be lucky to score 1 or 2 touchdowns, and that's it. But yeah, it's like, to me, the NCAA has to really reconsider how they schedule these early matchups, these FBS versus FCS, or matchups, or these Power 5 conferences versus the smaller to mid-major FBS conferences. They got to think better. They got to strategize better. Like, what kind of matchups will not be basically turned into a blowout or an annihilation, or basically be like a nuclear bomb got dropped onto the campus of the school that competed against the likes of an Oregon or an Oklahoma. They they need to re-strategize how this works. They need to, because even though the money is good, that the smaller schools, the smaller FBS, mid-major FBS schools, as well as an FCS schools, even though the money is good that they'll be getting in turn for competing, it's still not, to me, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, honestly. I think in the near future, again, the NCAA needs to re-strategize how they do this. Because I guarantee you, one of these days, you're going to have a school come out, and that school is going to basically be like, they're going to look at the schedule. They're going to see, like, for example, throwing it out there, I'm not saying they would ever, this would ever happen, but Washburn Ichabod in Topeka, Kansas. It'd be like if they saw on their schedule, oh, you're facing the Alabama Clemson Tide, to start the season of the SEC and the FBS. I guarantee you, they would look at it 2 ways. One, the money would be good, but 2, they'd also look at it from a standpoint of, screw this, we'll forfeit, we ain't going, we know we're going to get shellacked. and the money ain't worth it. So it's going to come down to, in my opinion, these smaller schools, these smaller FBS, these smaller, these mid-major FBS, I should say, these smaller FBS, and these FCS schools. It's going to come to a point where they're just going to be like, screw it, take us off the schedule. We're not going to take us off the schedule. The money's not worth it. We're not going to have our school humiliated in that matter. No way. So I think honestly, the NCAA, like I said, they need to re-strategize, how they, how they do these things, because I think a lot of the smaller FBS, mid-major FBS, and a lot of the FCS schools are just going to be like, we're done. Enough of this, BS. We're done. So NCAA, they need to get their act together. That's all I'm going to say when it comes to doing these kind of matchups, and try to, at least, if you want to book FCS schools, maybe, I don't know, give them a chance to have a game at home. Not guaranteeing that would be, a good sign for anybody, but still, hey, you put them, at home against, someone that might be, they might be able to compete with, they could sell out tickets. That'd be one way of doing it. But I think the NCAA really needs to rethink these scheduling, these scheduling matchups, excuse me, there, because, like I said, you know, administrators, directors, athletic directors are going to be like, money's not worth it to have our school get humiliated. It's not worth it. We're not letting it happen. So yeah, NCAA, they need to, as far as the opening of the FBS college football season, I think they need to reevaluate how they schedule matchups. That's all I'm going to say. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. Comment if you like. Again, guys, I do apologize if I sound a little out of it, slurry. I'm tired. I got to work tomorrow just like I did today. So, again, let me know what your thoughts are. And until next time, I am out.